Coach, hey, thanks for tuning in. Or you're not tuning in, but you're here today. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Season is still going, the NCAA tournament, but I'm getting an early jump on talking to some of the coaches I like, and you're in that category. So
I appreciate it. I've been tuning in, so maybe it was
Nice.
just I've been tuning in for most of the part, but now I get to actually participate and be a part of it. So, as always, thanks for the time, and I greatly appreciate everything you do to spotlight not just the OAC and coaches, but D3 as a whole. Right? It's a massive undertaking, and what you do gives a lot of good insight and a lot of good entertainment to a lot of people. So,
Thank you. I do appreciate it. I think I do need a vacation this time around.
hey, you're probably no different from a coach with how much film and new
Yeah.
things you're watching, with the number
Oh
of
my
people you're
gosh.
talking to,
Yeah.
looking forward, looking
You're
back.
back. Yeah.
You're doing
Absolutely.
everything that we're doing, Paul. So, hey,
Yeah.
take a good break.
Yeah. Hey, before I ask you about the season, I was just curious. Could you just talk a little bit? Look, I mean, for those who don't know, you were, I think it was last year, right? You were at Muskingum, all good. Capital opens up and you decide to go to Capital. Could you just talk through sort of the decision about that and why Capital? And I'll just say, as a Mount Union grad,
Yeah.
I can't wish you well. It's just the way.
And it's funny because, obviously, we saw each other, us in Mount Union, twice in 4 days, 5 days, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I think David and I think Krems and I said the same thing to each other both times. As much as we don't want to like each other or wish well,
I
it's
know.
really hard for it
That's
because
very, you make it hard. You really
he's,
do.
he's one of the better people in
Yeah.
college soccer and does a lot to help me. So no, it's been good. Quite honestly, it was not an easy decision to
Mhm.
leave Muskingum for Capital. It wasn't easy to. And you've got the appropriate hat on it for it today. It wasn't easy to leave Ohio Wesleyan for Muskingum, right?
Mhm.
But it's just trying to take an understanding of the goals that I've set for myself as a
Mhm.
person and as a coach. Understanding that I do have a family. I've got a wife and two
Mhm.
kids. That the more I go into this, the less I'm able to pour into them.
Yeah.
And so the Muskingum job was a tremendous opportunity to be able to immerse myself into how to build a program and to
Mhm.
really how to run things in charge. Had known, I mean, it's no secret, I've known Alan Yost for
Mhm.
close to 30 years now, so I'd been in close contact with the steps that he was going to take.
Mhm.
Wasn't expecting a really open search or anything like that, but when the opportunity came to really have a discussion, I think there was some mutual interest, and it was really
Mhm.
just being able to take one step after the neck, and
Mhm.
and then really, again, just take the assessment and understanding that I think this was the best move for me, for
Mhm.
my career, for my family, and
Mhm.
ultimately was the right decision.
Yeah. Understood. I get that. Right? Like I'd say it, you do have to watch out for your family and sort of the decisions you make.
We
So.
do. It's Division 3 soccer, and I don't mean that as a derogatory comment, but
Mhm.
it's part of life for people, and we've got to know that there's a balance in between soccer and life, and
Mhm.
and that was one opportunity for me to find a slightly greater balance. So now it's probably 85-15 soccer
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
home life, but it was probably 95-5 before that. So right, so
Yeah.
it's we've got a great support system at home that
Mhm.
allows me to be here and be present for these guys as much as I can.
Yeah. All right, so I do have to ask you, season 1 in the books. What are your initial thoughts? I look, I get the reality too. Like you probably haven't had. I always say the holidays are really good to just sort of siphon out the noise and figure things out and how you do. But I'm just curious your initial assessment of how you think the season was, how your first year at Capital went.
Yeah, just on an end of year look at it, from beginning to end, I would say we probably finished where I would hope or expected us to finish.
Mhm.
The way we got there, the way we started, the way we navigated through, certainly wasn't the smoothest path for us, or what we would have liked to have seen from day one to the end of it. But that's why seasons are fun,
Yeah.
is that you never know what you're going to expect. We really needed to kind of take a look at this as we went through, as the season being three different parts or three seasons for us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
our non-conference being that opportunity for me to come in and try to understand now that we're in the fall. We had the spring, but spring seasons are all over the place. First fall coming in, we used the non-conference to really understand our identity and what the culture needed to be. And we had a nice 10-day break in between non-conference, that loss to Ohio Wesleyan that really resonated with us in the beginning of conference play with Baldwin Wallace, to really kind of just take a step back and evaluate what needed to change, from me as a coach, from the guys as a team, and really kind of have a solid understanding of here's where we are, here's what we like, here's what needs to change. We get into conference play and feel really good about the changes that the guys have made. And I'll be completely honest, it's a complete turnaround from the guys.
Mm-hmm.
They drove everything, they led everything, they held themselves accountable to the standards to which this group wanted to keep themselves going. Had a good second season, or our conference season into it. Towards the end, did we meet the goals that we necessarily wanted for ourselves? No, but we got ourselves back into a conference tournament for
Mm-hmm.
kind of season three as we looked at it,
Yeah.
and went into it with as light as we possibly could, and had a
Mm-hmm.
decent run of success out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Getting through a first round and getting up to Mount Union for a semifinal was something that these guys can really feel confident about and building for next year. So, as I'm rambling through it, was it the way and path that we expected it to go? No, but I think where we ended is probably where we thought this group could get to.
Mm-hmm.
But it also gives us a great springboard into knowing what this group can be.
Yeah. Can I just ask you to clarify something? You mentioned year three,
Season three,
season
sorry.
three,
Season
season
three,
three.
really just trying to break this into non-conference being
Oh
season
yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I
Season
get it.
one
Yeah,
didn't go so well for us as
yeah,
anyone could
yeah.
possibly see. But really being able to show the guys that, yes,
Mm-hmm.
as unintended as some of those results were, how we got to
Mm-hmm.
some of those things, we were also very clear with each other that, who we are now, our results, even some things that go into it. We're not an at-large type of team, and we
Mm-hmm.
really need to put our focus into the OAC
Yeah,
and doing the best we can, because that's our path forward. So we say season one ends, season
yeah,
two begins with the
yeah,
conference.
yeah,
We know the conference season ends, and we get to play a little bit of extra soccer, so we
yeah.
called that season three.
Three. I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I wasn't putting two together. A little slow today. S- so let me ask you, like, how seamless do you think it was with you coming in to a team that's already established? There's already, a legacy culture around, right? One of the giants of the game, and who's been around in Coach Yost. Like, what do you find yourself doing a lot of new things for them? And if so, how are they adapting to it? Are they sponges or?
Yeah, and I think this is one, when we really look back on it, that I think as the season wore on, I needed to be more open to allowing them to dictate what the culture is. I think I tried to come in and dictate what things maybe needed to change versus a level that we were comfortable operating in. So as the season went on, I think I was a little bit more trustworthy to be open and allow these guys to really go with it, because there's certainly things in place here at Capital that I'm greatly proud of, that we just look at the guys and we say, you're accountable to keep this going because we love it. But then we also recognize, with probably any organization, any process, that there's, even if it's working well, that there's maybe some stagnation. There's some things that are stopping an element of your program from getting to a next level. So we really tried to take a step back and see what we can live with, what we love, and what needs to change for the better of this group. But it was all with the understanding that the heavy input had to come from these guys, because if
Mm-hmm.
they don't buy into it, then there's no way that we're ever going to get anything done.
Did you think there was like some sort of like a turning point moment where you thought there was Like there was a glimpse of, you could see them sort of going towards a path that you're wanting to over the long term. Was there anything like that during the season, in spite of the ups and downs, the twists and turns that you experienced?
I really think again, I'm going to keep going back to the kind of 10-day layoff
Uh
and
huh.
a nice break that we had between non-conference and conference, and guys having every reason to not trust what we're trying to do, or not having the belief that we are able to put this thing in the right direction. We had a meeting. We lost to Wesleyan on that Wednesday. We didn't have anything until the following Saturday. We
Mm-hmm.
gave the guys the weekend off, and we had a Monday morning 8 o'clock meeting to really just level set expectations for us, for them. And then, like I said, we saw a group really take ownership of their own development, take ownership of where they are as a group. And we could see in every training session, guys were showing up earlier than they had been
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yeah.
Guys were staying late and doing things. We started to see in Baldwin Wallace, Heidelberg, the John Carroll game that we lost up there. So as I'm rambling again, that's probably the one game that we could sit there and say, up at John Carroll in the middle of October, were we able to come away with the result? No, Dillingham smashed one. It was a great goal to win it for them,
I
right?
saw that game. Yeah.
But we also were able to sit there and say this is a group that earlier in the year we wouldn't have responded to,
Mm-hmm.
or there are situations within this game that we would not have positively reacted to, and we
Mm-hmm.
saw a lot of things not just from the guys playing, but from the guys not getting minutes, that they were
Yeah.
more invested into things.
Yeah. That's huge. Right? Like I think that's huge. Something that you mentioned, just the guys who aren't getting minutes being invested in it as well. I think that's a big step in the process, right? You don't want 10 guys along or 11 guys along or 15 guys along. You want the 30 guys or however big your roster is
Yep,
to be
you
along.
want the no perfect number. You want the 30 guys to buy in, and you have
Yep.
to make sure that they have ways
Yeah.
to show that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of it came through. The OAC tournament game against Mount Union was very hopeful, and seeing a lot of guys in bench, if there was an injury or
Mm-hmm.
a break in play and a guy was coming to get a water bottle to get a quick drink, you were seeing a
Mm-hmm.
guy on the end of a bench be able to look at
Yeah.
him, and if it's a midfielder, it's, hey, the pressure's coming from your right. If you
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
this step in, and being able to see guys that
Mm-hmm.
are not upset that they're not the ones being able to impact that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they're recognizing where their role is. They might see something a little bit differently than the guy on the field, and their job is to help, because when they help and we score, we all go celebrate in that corner.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Who's the best team you played this season? Wait,
You're
let
putting
me
me on.
take
You're
a
putting me on
step
the
back.
spot with this one.
I'm going to
I
put you
got a
on the
bunch of people
spot.
have my phone
This
number with this one.
this is yeah. this is this is definitely, this could conceivably be like um material, locker room material for the teams that you don't
It
pick.
could. Well, I know, right? I got to tread lightly here. So many teams we played this year did things very well in a lot of different ways, and I think
Mhm.
that's something I appreciated about our schedule is that we got to see a lot of variety. I mean,
Mhm.
how we had Texas Lutheran up
Yeah,
here,
I
right? They
saw
flew
that.
up here to play
Yeah.
Otterbein and to play us, and that was the most. I'm going to start throwing out cliches and things, with the most just blue collar,
Mhm.
hard nosed type of team that could put a ball down and play at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Early in the season, they were a really strong one. But then you can go up and down on everyone. I mean, obviously not the day for us, but the attack that that Ohio Wesleyan has, was just
Yeah.
on display, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and when that group's clicking because they know what they're doing, that was a really dangerous team to play.
Yeah.
You got to give a lot of credit to Ohio Northern, who just most dangerous off the counter, or just
Yeah.
when they figure out here's how
Yeah.
we're getting downhill,
Yeah.
just look out, right?
Yeah.
Wilmington the same way, just high powered offense and just really making you really think through.
Mhm.
Um,
They looked
but
good this year, by the way, I thought.
they
Like
did.
much
They,
improved from last year. Much
they
improved.
did, and Corey Bucher's a
Yeah.
great coach, right?
Yeah.
And he does a great job of showing guys what he wants, and they put it into action.
Yeah.
If I have to answer, and I promise you, I'm not just saying this, because of the shirt that you have on. I thought Mount was the most one of the most complete teams that we saw.
Yeah.
I'd say between them and Ohio Wesleyan.
Yeah.
I mean, just from the obvious individuals, Carter Hancock's a great player. I'm not going to be afraid to say I'm glad he's not going to be in the OAC much longer.
Yeah.
The end of it, AJ Jaber's a great player. Alex Deppershit's a great. They got a lot of great individuals, but just the connection they had as a group,
Yeah.
I think separated a little bit from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just they were so coordinated. They knew who they were. They knew what they wanted to do. And those are two fun games to play this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I am bummed about that final, but
yeah.
What do you? I asked this question. I hate to ask about other programs, but I think it's kind of big deal in a lot of respects because of how dominant they are. Like, what are your thoughts about this being it for John Carroll and no longer in the OAC? I mean, what does that? I got to believe that to a certain extent, you got to be a little bit like, okay, this is not a right, like in a terrible sort of way.
In the most glib way I can possibly say, yeah. The NCAC is getting a tremendous program, and I wish all of them a great luck in the dogfight that they're all about to have with each other.
Yeah.
There is a certain side of you that says maybe there's a path cleared that makes it a bit more palatable to heading into a conference season. The OAC is, and every conference I'm sure says it, is just such a gauntlet to run through because of how strong teams are, both figuratively and literally. But at the same time, there's something to be said about matchups with Daehan in that group.
Yeah.
They always seem to bring the best out of themselves and everyone that they play. So on the one hand, do I feel like, yes, it's a nice thing to see them move on? Yes, but at the same time, come on, we get in this because iron sharpens iron, and again, all the bad cliches, and you're here because you want to play the best and you want to compete against the best. So there is certainly a sad part of me that sees them move on, but I know that it's an ever-changing landscape, and hey, the great thing is I don't have the exact date in front. I'm pretty sure it's August 29th or August 30th, 2025. We're going straight back up there, and we're playing John Carroll again for the opener. Right, so they can't get away from us that easy, or I guess maybe we can't get away from them that easy.
Yeah, I'm. They're going from the fire to the frying pan, or from the frying pan to the fire, however that works. To the NCAC, right? Like, it's going to be quite the gauntlet for all the teams. I'm not just saying John Carroll, but John Carroll being thrown into the mix really does, I think, step that conference up a few notches.
It does, and I think that's a really good thing about D3 soccer across the board, at least from my perspective, is everyone's getting better.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you look in NCAC,
very true.
You have your traditional heavy hitters in there that you throw John Carroll in, it's going to make it more difficult. But Worcester's a team that's not easy to beat, and they don't go away. Andy's got them in a great place, and they're going to challenge. DePaul, we saw from them, right?
Yeah.
They knock on the door and say, "Don't forget about us," right? So, not upset that I get to kind of look at that one over the fence and wish all of my friends good luck over there.
Yeah. I actually am speaking with him later today, Coach Dayan. Just talking to same.
Let him know
same
I said hello.
Yeah, we'll do. What is do you sort of have a visions for where you want the program to be in then 2 years, 3 years? And I never really put that much. I used to ask that question a lot, and I thought, well, that's kind of corny. I could kind of, as a coach, like in 3 years, I want to be a national champion or whatever it is, right? Like it's pretty obvious. But then Denison, Coach Bianco, I look at their trajectory since he came on board, and it's pretty remarkable, right? So then I'm like, oh, maybe there is something to be said about having a vision for where you want your program to go. So I'm ask you, do you have that sort of sense as to where you want to build the program to?
I'd say yes, but it's less defined from a results oriented standpoint, and
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, we want to be in a Sweet 16 three
Yeah,
years from now, 2 years from now,
yeah.
right? And really handcuffing into it, because we know there's going to be changes to how we do things, how we look at everything. The Denison one is an interesting comparison, because I think as I look at it, it's been much more oriented about taking the right steps to put yourself in those types
A
of places.
hundred. I totally agree with you there. Totally
And
agree.
I think for me, my vision towards this success is much more focused on those blocks,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are the three aspects of every college student's life? It's their academics, their athletics, and their social life.
Mm-hmm.
So what pieces are there? What roadblocks are there right now? Right,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can continue to get rid of any maybe distraction or anything that is beyond where we need these guys' mindset
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get better every day, to be able to be accountable for their development. Ultimately, it's finding the right group of guys. I think the guys that we have in the locker room now, led by the seniors that are walking out the door, have really set a good example of where we need to take things. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
excitement, but it's also having the understanding that while an OAC championship, an OAC tournament championship is certainly the end goal that we get ourselves to build ourselves into more of a traditional group that is as seen as a very successful program, we have to be focused on making sure we do everything right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's less of
Yeah.
a by 2027, if we're
Yeah.
not here, then
Yeah. Yeah.
it's where it's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's much more of, do we have the guys showing up every day wanting to get better?
Yeah.
Have we set the environment? And it's an everyday vision of how do we set the environment so that those guys can succeed.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you, like when coaches would tell me that, like they want to make sure that they're more focused on the culture, sort of the things that the players do or need to do to get better, that they're more focused on that than the wins and losses. I was like, kind of same thing. Like, that might not mean much, but like I said, I don't recall that Denison again, stark example, and that's why I'm using them,
Sure.
right? And their success this year, but it was never a thing about wins and losses. Like, and that stuck with, for some reason, that stuck into my craw, or stuck into my mind about how, what does progress look like, right? And if you have the team, if you have the players, everything flows from that. Success flows from having a good group of guys doing the things you need them to do.
I've had a lot of great mentors and a lot of great coaches along the way to show me different perspectives of how to look at things and things like that. And I think the one that I gravitate most towards is, if you take care of all the little things, the game and the winning is going to take care of itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's kind of the fun part. The stressful part is everything that
Yeah,
leads up to it.
yeah,
But also at the same time, yeah, winning solves a lot of problems, but winning also hides a lot of cracks,
correct. Yeah, yeah, very
right?
true.
So you've got to make sure that you got to keep an eye towards winning and
Mm-hmm.
setting yourselves in the positions to get there. But at the same time, it's winning with the understanding that you're doing things the right way, so
Mm-hmm.
that when there is a bump in the road or there's a temporary stop in that winning, that you feel confident in the processes that you have. You have confidence
Yeah,
in the group being able to weather the storm and move forward. And that's the vision, is having a group that knows it's not great today. It's going to be
yeah,
great tomorrow, because we can make it great
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. Agreed, agreed. Hey, totally random. Do you have any thoughts on the MPI ranking, that sort of how it came about? This is another one where I'm sorry if I get you in trouble.
No, and honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say that I just turn a blind eye or have ignorance to it,
Yeah,
because that would be showing that, of course, we've got to pay attention.
yeah,
We've got to understand how the world's working and what changes are, so that we can schedule appropriately, so that we can think about how we're building
yeah,
the future appropriately. But at the same time, I guess I see this one more as it's not in my control.
yeah, yeah,
My control is my group. My control is what
yeah.
happens within these walls. The more focus I put into it, the
Mm-hmm.
less I have available to put into these guys and the
Yeah.
task at hand.
Yeah.
Do I have my opinion one way or another? Absolutely, but I also don't think that it's worth my energy or anyone else's energy to really get
Yeah. Yeah.
into it. You know, the folks that are much smarter than me are going to really pour into it and find ways to take advantage of it. For me,
Mhm.
it's making sure I've got a solid understanding of how
Mhm.
this works, making sure that I put my team and my program in the right positions. But at the end of the day, soccer is soccer is soccer, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll play who's in front of us.
Yeah. Speaking of, do you, have you been following the tournament at all?
I
Have you
have
been?
been.
Yeah.
I have been,
D-
right? I'm fortunate enough to have some really strong relationships with a lot of
mhm.
folks that made the tournament, that are still in the tournament.
Oh,
And,
nice.
more, the longer I do this, it's recognizing that those successes of those folks should be celebrated and
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
be held in any
Yeah.
kind of envy or jealousy, because I think we all recognize what goes into this profession, the
Yeah.
sacrifices we make, the hard work that we put into this. And 99.9% of coaches I've met through the college game are some of the best people in the world. So, yeah, you want to see
Mhm.
these guys do well.
Yeah.
Now, do I want to see Otterbein move on and go super deep? Come on now. But at the same time, right, Jason's a good coach. The OAC represents the OAC, and
Yeah.
you want to see them do well.
Yeah. Do you have a pick, like who you think's?
I don't. The traditional powers are always going to be. I mean, like
Yeah.
I saw it from being at the battlegrounds 2 years ago. Mary
Yeah.
Washington's program is
Oh.
incredibly strong,
Yeah.
but I think that's also where the fun part is, right? And I'm only going to name them because I don't want to name all 16 that are left into it. But I think that's the fun part about this is
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to see the teams in front of us or the teams we know are going to be around us. So it's a lot more difficult to see a
Mhm.
Colorado College
Yeah.
or anything like that through the
Yeah.
tournament. But there are so many good teams, and I know they're not. But of the 16 that are left, I don't think I could sit here and say one over the other. I think
Yeah.
everyone's got a chance to be able to make noise.
You, I watched the Tufts Buffalo State, and I
Right?
I mean I had watched Buffalo State earlier in the year, and I thought, oh, they're good, like they're good.
Yeah.
I never anticipated them being able to go toe to toe with Tufts, that's for sure. And they
That's
look
why this
really
is
good.
so much fun, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah, that's
at
it.
this point you have to be on, and if you're
Yep,
not, then
that's
be
it.
ready to go.
That's the truth, right? Like the good teams figure out ways to sort of deal with the adversity through a tournament and manage to be there at the end, right? And like I think that's very, very, very true. And like I said, I think very eye opening to me. Very eye opening to me. Um, hey, what does so your this will be your next year will be your first recruiting class that you've been able to recruit from start to finish.
All the way from start to finish,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
From I mean, even in the season and having guys on visits and
Yep.
being able to take advantage of that. I started in January, so we were
Mm-hmm.
able to have a solid couple of months to
Mm-hmm.
really get in and identify. The interim staff did a great job of staying in touch with
Mm-hmm.
guys and laying a path forward for us of here's who we've talked to, here's where we are with things. So we had a good chance to impact with this last incoming class, our group of freshmen and transfers that came in for us, and they made a huge impact for us.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it'll be the first full from start to finish class that we have in here, and we're really excited
Mm-hmm.
about building on the momentum of showing that if you're an 18-year-old and you're ready to play the game,
You'll
you're ready to
play.
play the game,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
going to put you in
Yeah.
situations to learn from that. I think 3, 4 freshmen started that OAC semifinal,
Mm-hmm.
and while I think our youth showed in a lot of ways, that's a trade off in experience for
Yeah.
those guys
Totally.
to be able to show off, and that's a lot of
Yeah.
what Krems and I talked about too, is to put those guys in those situations makes
Yeah.
me feel really good. And then, from a recruiting standpoint, we can show that we want to find the right group that can impact
Mm-hmm.
capital in the right ways, that fits into the group to push us forward. And if you're ready to go, then you're ready to go.
Yeah. how's your class looking so far for the fall?
Uh, we've got 3 commits to us so far right
Nice.
now, which is obviously a step ahead of where we were at this point last year with kids very fairly just not being
Yeah.
able to commit because they don't know what the future of the staff or the program is going to look like.
Yeah.
But 3 commits of guys to us right now, that we think are going to be able to impact us very
Mhm.
early on.
Mhm.
We're really looking forward to building off of that momentum here as we really start to hit into just the prime recruiting months of the
Yeah.
year, right? Getting to all the different events. Columbus, the Outer Belt, Ohio in general is such a
It's
terrific
just
opportunity
yeah.
that we feel really comfortable. The transfer portal has its place. International
Yeah.
guys have their place, and if there's the right fit into what we want to do on the field and culturally, then that absolutely has to be
Yeah.
open channels. But I'll sit here and feel very confident in that there are a lot of guys in Ohio that can play a lot of really good soccer that
Yeah. Yeah.
we'd really like to bring to Capital.
Coach, I spoke with Coach Bergen on Friday, and one of the conversations we had was just that, like how the Great Lakes is the soccer is just fantastic, and um, he was wanting and somebody from the Great Lakes to win it, and um, but we talked about the talent that's there. Yeah, you're in fertile ground, right? Like so. Um,
And he's got the best hair in the business. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. You're looking pretty slick yourself these days.
Yeah, but he takes care of it, right? I just look at I look like a mess right now. I need a haircut. I gotta call
You
my
got next
barber.
time, Coach. Next time, I fully expect you to have like a makeup artist and a
Oh yeah,
hairstylist.
we'll get the light ring
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything for you. I'll be much more dressed more
yeah,
appropriately. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So, hey, just a couple more. I'll let you get on with your day. Like, do you? I mean, are you pretty much done until you get back from the holidays? Are you giving guys time off? I
Yeah.
mean, time
So
off, but basically unplug, get away. We'll come back in January.
yeah. So for the very obvious, rules and regulations we have, there's
Yeah.
obviously nothing going on, but we want to really use this time between now and not only Thanksgiving break, but when they go back for the holidays and come back for the spring semester, we want them to really unplug, to get away from soccer. They're around soccer 6 days a week
Yeah.
for 3+ months. And then the time they're not here in the facility, they're thinking about it, or they're preparing, or they're recovering, all
Hmm.
geared towards one thing. And so we really want to make sure that they unplug and they get to be college students for as long as they possibly can.
Hmm.
We want them to be responsible, but we also want them to have the social life too, right? We
Hmm.
want them to get caught back up on academics if there were anything that were slipping there. So
Hmm.
we're going through end of year meetings now
Hmm.
to really make sure. So as you and I finish, I think I've got another one coming in here at 2 o'clock today.
Tell them to subscribe to the
So we'll
channel.
tell them
First
we'll get
thing.
them all things D3 soccer. Got it. Um, but no, outside of that, right, we've got the structure in place. We still have them getting in the library to do their study tables and make
Yeah.
sure that they're finishing the semester strong. We're letting them know that we're here to support them for any kind of
Hmm.
resource that they might need for us, because it's first and foremost making sure they're good. But there's nothing soccer.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
won't there won't be anything until they come back
Yeah.
for the semester in the middle of January. We'll
Yeah.
start getting them in the weight room. We'll start getting them into kind of the voluntary programs that we're able to get them into, and we're excited about the accountability for guys. The guys that have been in here for end of year meetings have been asking, when do we
Yeah.
start? When can we
Yeah.
get eyes on what we're doing? Can we put ourselves into little groups? Things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. It's
give
def.
a little break, and it admittedly gives me a little break. Right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. I'm
still the
sure you
club
need.
obligation. I coach a club team, so we lost on Thursday, and I was at the training facility on Monday.
Uh huh.
Um, but it's a good shift for me to be able to stay in tune with what I do as a job, but to take a
Yeah.
step back from the day to day stuff at Capital. And the recruiting benefits are nice there, to be able to see a lot of guys, and then just opportunity to have different ideas. Right? It's using a club season to take training activities, session plans, and really see how they fit here with this group. So
Coach.
constantly in thought.
Yeah. 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 It never. the planning never and preparing never stops, right? Like even as good of a time it is to slow down, you're always sort of thinking about, okay, when we start up, how do you maximize? That's the one. If I've learned anything talking to coaches, it's like, how do I maximize every interaction I get with players? And
We're limited in time. We're
yeah,
limited in days. We
yeah,
have to make sure we don't waste them, and that's a big part of what we talk to the guys is you can't jump 50 steps. You can take one step at a time, but
yeah,
if you miss a step one day,
yeah,
you're behind, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
the more
yeah,
times that you have to look at yourself and say, we didn't go forward today,
yeah.
someone else did.
Someone, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the biggest lesson, I think, especially for kids coming from their clubs to becoming a freshman, right? Like there, you can stop, you can slow, you can skip a
Mhm.
step, you can do all those things, but don't think anybody else is going to be joining you, right? Like,
Or the margin for error in
yeah,
being able to get away from that
yeah,
drastically reduces.
reduces,
And
yeah,
with the obvious changes for a first year student
yeah,
athlete, there's are going to be changes, but I think that's definitely a big one. Is just recognizing what you could get away with does
yeah.
not exist here
Does not
anymore,
exist anymore. Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
that's a shock,
yeah,
right? That's a shock that we as coaches have to be able to help prepare them for as early and
yeah,
as quickly as possible.
yeah. Hey, can I one last question? One last question,
No
and you get
problem.
what have you seen anything? You know, the Division One with the reduced rosters. I mean, you mentioned the transfer portal, but have you seen anything of kids like going? I don't know, like calling you and being like, "Hey, coach, I was going to go Division One, but the way things are now, I think I'll just." That
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's been an interesting it's been an interesting topic because we've seen the portal blow up
Really?
just in the last couple of right being one of the first days in which it's kind
Hmm.
of opened up into everybody can kind of jump in without a reason, such as your
Yep.
coach no longer being at
Yeah.
the institution or thing or any kind of extenuating circumstances. But it's interesting because just had I was out at the club facility yesterday and had a nice long conversation with a D1 coach who
Uh huh.
who really highlighted a lot of ways in which we think college soccer are going to change based
Yeah.
off of that legislature,
Hmm.
and I think the overall sentiment is it's going to change. It's going to get wild, but I think D2, D3 soccer is going to benefit
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
talent levels. It's going to cause a lot of just unknown consternation,
Yeah.
not just for kids. The kids are going to be the ones obviously most impacted,
Yeah.
right, of futures and short timelines, but I think a lot of it is going to be just because everybody involved doesn't really know what to expect,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
in talking to this coach yesterday, I think everyone's going to feel great with it by year two, year three, year four, where they know how to expect for things, they
Yeah.
know how to
Yeah.
plan things
They've
without
adapted
having
to it, right? Like it's just
without having
normal.
to gut
Yep.
their roster just to be
Yeah.
able to bring in a freshman class. Like
Yeah.
this spring, this summer is going to be very interesting and difficult.
Yeah.
Um, but I am optimistic in the long run that when people are able to adapt and shake things out, that overall
Yeah.
there's going to be benefits and positives for
Okay.
everybody.
You mentioned earlier about how much better the competition generally is in Division Three. You know, in a conference, your bottom isn't so far away from your top, right? Like, and it's
Hmm.
every game's competitive, and I think over time that's probably going to be more. It's going to be more so because I think the realities of going Division One are going to be stark for a lot of people once we've sort of acclimated and got all. And if a kid wants to keep playing, their options might not be Division One anymore. They might not be able to sneak into a Division One program, and that they'll start looking. Okay, where can I play? Right, and that becomes an opportunity for the Division twos and the Division threes of the world. And I think the talent level is going to keep rising as a result. So,
Absolutely.
um, all right, Coach. I know you got a one-on-one meeting here in 17 minutes, so I'll let you get to it. But hey, as always, really do appreciate you hopping on board and chatting with me. And if I'm out in your neck of the woods, they'll definitely be knocking on your door to say hello.
Absolutely. I know you. I know you from time to time are able to travel and see some
Yeah,
fields of glory. So we'd love to be
yeah,
able to show you Bexley and Burnt
yeah,
North
yeah,
Stadium. But
yeah.
kind of as I said, at the beginning, and I think before we really even got started, greatly appreciate
Oh,
having me
thank you.
on and
Yeah,
letting me ramble on, and ultimately just shining a light in a place where there's so much good going on the
yeah,
field, off the field, in the classrooms, in communities that isn't going to be seen otherwise. And like you said, you need a vacation for how much you've put into it and how much you've engaged others. Seeing
yeah,
guys like EJ getting into things
yeah,
that he's
yeah.
been
Can you
into.
believe
And
that? Were you
I have to make
playing?
sure I
Were
say
you playing?
no. I have to say I believe. There's nope,
There's an
nope, nope,
NCAA violation
nope,
there, I think.
nope, nope. But to just be able to
Yeah,
see that you're getting others involved,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
and letting
Trying.
others have those voices
Yeah,
and other parts of the country for more teams to be in. And
yeah.
I greatly appreciate it, and
No,
keep
thank
doing
you.
everything that you're doing. And like I said, send me the shipping address so that
Yeah, we'll do. Oh,
I
that's
can get a
guarantee.
nice
Yeah.
purple hat on your head.
Oh, I have plenty of Mount Union hats. Don't worry.
Yeah, different shades, different logos.
Yeah, yeah, different logo, different logo. All right, Coach. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir. You
All
guys
right.
have a good one.
Yeah, you too.